Greetings and welcome to the State of Healing. I am Natasha L Brown, your host and your guide to your holistic journey. This week we are going to be dealing with ourselves again. And that is the most important thing because of the simple fact that when we can get ourselves aligned, everything around us begins to align to work for our good. So this week's topic is overcoming negative thoughts and rewriting our story, which is so very vital and important. But as always, let's start off with our disclaimer. I am not a medical professional. I am a holistic professional. This is an informational session just to guide you and aid you in your holistic journey to self-healing. If there are any issues that we do not address or that we address and you need more assistance on, if a holistic coach or a life coach is not sufficient, definitely seek professional advice from your personal care provider or a licensed and trained therapist so that you can get what you need. Now, if you are seeing this anywhere other than YouTube, go over to YouTube now. Click the subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can get notifications to know when I am posting new videos, as well as make sure you share this and leave a comment so that we'll know what you are feeling and if you are dealing with any of these issues, and if so, how you're overcoming those issues. So again, we are dealing with overcoming negative thoughts and rewriting our stories. Many of us have gone through different situations that may have made us feel that we are alone, that feel that we are the only ones that have gone through this situation, when that is not true. If you just get out into the world and start talking to people, you will find out many people have experienced the same things that you've experienced. Maybe in different situations, maybe not exactly the same, but the emotions behind them, the residue that is left over many times are identical. So how do we overcome negative thought? First of all, we need to make sure we identify and realize when we are going into a state of negativity, especially if we repeat the same thoughts over and over again. It may be an old story, an old thought, a situation that constantly plays over and over again, which in turn, since we are not in alignment internally, it's attracting that same situation over and over again. So you definitely have to get into a place where you can move forward mentally, emotionally, and physically, because the entire being, that's why holistic coaching, we deal with everything. Now, the state of healing we've been dealing with, the last couple of sessions have been emotional, but definitely the entire body is affected. When one part of the body is off, every part of the body is out of alignment. So definitely the first step, you want to recognize what it is, the emotion, the issue, the situation, whatever it is, you want to be able to step back and look at it. The negative patterns, the negative thoughts. What I like to do is try to see if someone came to me with that particular situation, see it from that vantage point. What advice would I give? How would I help that person? And, because many times we can help people with their situations, or when we pray for people, they see results quicker than when we're praying for our own situation. It's because we haven't stepped back yet. We haven't been able to step back to see it from a different vantage point, from a different perspective. So we definitely have to make sure that we keep that in mind. A few points we want to point out as far as negative thought patterns: they become repetitious, they are unhelpful, they can be identified as unwanted and unpleasant, but we constantly turn them over. We regurgitate those things over and over and over again. So what you want to do is identify what those thoughts are. And it could be anxiety, depression, stress, fear, unworthiness, shame, just like I said before, feeling that you are alone in this situation and that no one else has gone through this, no one cares, the people that know about the situation are not willing to help. Those are things that we need to get out of. You want to get a victor's mentality, not a victim's mentality. So once we learn and recognize, identify those negative thought patterns, those negative thoughts, it becomes clutter. And you can't move forward if you have a lot of clutter in the mind. Once we identify those negative patterns that continuously are turned over and over again, we can start to move forward in a positive direction. So what you want to do is make sure that many times you need to feel the situation, feel the emotion, feel the thoughts, and we're going to get to that a little later. But what you want to do is you want to learn to see thoughts in the simplest form. Identify the thought and realize whether the thought is reality or not. And you may say, it's something that I went through previously, and that situation is playing over and over and over again. So what you want to do is keep in mind on how to move forward in that situation. And in doing so, the best way to do that is to defuse the situation. If it's not a realistic thought, if it's something that happens previously, it's not reality. It's something from the past. If you're worried or stressed about something, anxious about a particular situation, it's not reality. It's something that could happen but may not happen the way that you're envisioning it happening. So all of that, is it reality? If we can get that one thought in our mind when a negative thought comes, then we'll be able to move forward immediately in the positive direction. So defusing the thought, making sure that we stay in the now, in the present. And if it's something that happened before, how can we rewrite the story? How can we move forward differently so if we get into that same situation, we won't respond the same way? So when we only listen to those negative thoughts, we devalue ourselves. Those thoughts are not helpful at all. The problem is not that we have negative thoughts. The problem comes when we believe our thoughts are true. Again, reality. Is the thought reality, or is it past, or is it something that may happen in the future? And a few of the emotions that we talked about, anxiety. So if you're feeling anxious thoughts will create worry. And there is a quote here: "My life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened." Right? And that is by Michael Montague. And what happens is we get those thoughts in our minds, they begin to grow, they begin to flourish. Like I said, if it's something future, we are trying to figure out how it's going to happen and we are not allowing it to take place. Or if it's past, we're remembering it from our perception, playing it over and over again. And depending on what emotion is attached to it, we may begin to play it in a way that will not allow us to release ourselves to feel it and move forward. It's allowing us to play it over and over again, but can we feel the emotion? Forgive ourselves if it's something that we did to ourselves. Forgive the other person if it's something that was done to us, and move forward. And many times we can't. There are situations that we struggle to release and get through. But if we can get to a place where we're not struggling, that helps a great deal. So worry is when the mind projects into an imagined future or conjures up scenes and thoughts about what could go wrong. The what if scenarios. What if? Those create anxiety and worry. Also, criticism and self-beating. You know, you're hard. Most people are harder on themselves than anyone else would be. So, you know, we always say they said. They will never be as hard as you are on yourself if you are a perfectionist, if you are someone that constantly has to be in control. Nobody's going to be harder on you than you. So external critics are always going to be more productive than the internal critic, depending on what the internal critic is saying. Okay? So the harshest critic can be ourselves, that internal critic. And many people won't hear what we're saying because we're going to turn that over and over in our heads. We're not going to release it out verbally. Well, most people are not going to release it out verbally. That's where it becomes so dangerous, because you're constantly turning it over in your head. And if you can find somebody that can back that negative thought up, then it compounds it. So mentally beating yourself up is not a good thing. You want to be able to get beyond that. Write out, if you have to journal, get you a positivity journal. Journal something opposite of what you've been turning over negatively in your head. Get out of the practice of trying to be a perfectionist. Definitely that is something that will keep you in a state of anxiety. It keeps that critic going. It keeps that clutter constantly shaking around. You know, if you have a box of clutter, you're always hearing that noise. And it's not always a good noise depending on what it is. So you don't want to have that going on in your head, that mental clutter. Regret and guilt, those are some other emotions that we're still dealing with, overcoming the negative thoughts. So some of these emotions are attached to us having those negative thoughts. So regret and guilt. Ruminating over mistakes that were made in the past creates feelings of shame, guilt, negativity, feelings of worthlessness, and just being in a position where you're constantly playing that over and over again. And we wouldn't allow someone else to do themselves like that. So why would we do ourselves like that? And if you are stuck in that situation, again, that positivity journal, writing things that are positive, contrary to what you are turning over in your head, practicing. Affirmation, get you a good affirmation that you've created or one that you find that resonates with you, and write it down. Anytime you're feeling worthless, anytime you're having those critical thoughts, write that affirmation down. Writing it out gets it into your entire being. Reflecting versus lingering, knowing the difference. It's nothing wrong with reflecting on what's happened in the past if you can learn from it and move forward. But if you're going to linger there, if you're going to put up a tent and start a pity party, then no, it's not productive. You have to be willing to move forward. Problems. Negative thoughts often revolve around what's wrong in our lives. So if we are lingering in the negativity and not finding something positive, there's always something positive in a situation. Someone told me that one time I was going through a situation and I did not want to hear that. Not even a little bit did I want to hear that. But it made so much sense. As you began to push through that negativity, it's almost like being in mud and you're looking for something. You know it's there, but you have to push through that mud. And once you get to that flower that's growing there, and you have a couple of different flowers that grow beautifully in mud. But as they are growing, you don't want to pull it out, but you do want to pull it out because you know you're so amazed at something so beautiful and something that we would consider not beautiful. But you know, we need everything that is here on the planet. So don't focus on the negative when you're focusing on, well, don't focus on the problem. Focus on the lesson learned. Focus on what can happen positively in the situation. So how do we get unstuck? How do we get unstuck? How do you get unstuck? Leave a comment below. If you haven't subscribed yet, definitely go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube page that you are watching, as well as click on the bell for the notifications so that you'll know when I am posting something new. And making sure that you are in a positive, holistic state of healing. That's what these sessions are about. And these are just mini sessions. If you're needing coaching, definitely in the bio section, as well as in the links on the main page, you can click the website or contact me through social media, Natasha L Brown. And that way you can set up a session if you're needing a holistic session, or if you're needing a recommendation. Many of the coaches I am affiliated with will do sessions long distance. So no matter where you are, no matter where you're watching this, we definitely can get you some assistance. So always keep in mind, these are tips, these are suggestions, these are not an end to a means. We give you some solutions, but depending on the situation, you may need some coaching. So whether it's life coaching, holistic coaching, therapy, whatever you're needing, definitely make sure you get what you need. You don't want to keep it in a place where you are not getting what you need. You don't want to get stuck. So getting unstuck, some of the tips that, and I touched on a few of these, but some of the tips you want to do in order to move forward. You want to move through life in a way that is practical, peaceful, authentic, without getting stuck in negative thought patterns. And sometimes we get stuck in negative thought patterns depending on how the hurt was, whether we have someone to vent to and move forward out of the hurt, whether the hurt was something that was intentionally done by someone and you don't know what happened, so you can't really get a resolve to the situation. Those definitely are things where you're going to need someone in order to listen and be able to reflect with. It's a very powerful, simple, tried and tested situation or technique that you can use in order to get stuck. So mentally labeling the story are the thoughts that keep coming. And usually they're attached to a story or an incident, some type of situation. So definitely getting those things in mind. And then you want to get to a place where you feel the emotions. And if you need to, definitely journal. Or even write a letter. If it's something you can write a letter about, write a letter so that you can get rid of those emotions, physically doing something. Writing that letter and then destroying the letter so that you can get rid of those thoughts. And then letting it go. However you need to let it go. Journaling it, writing a letter and getting rid of the letter, confronting the situation head on, talking to the person. Whatever the situation is, find a way to let go of those negative thoughts, that negative story that is holding you up. Making sure you, again, identify whether it's reality, because if it's not present, it's not reality. And if it's something that you can change, rewrite the story so that you won't go through the situation again. Step back and get a greater perspective. Always a beautiful thing when we can step back and look at it from someone else's perspective. How would we look at it if someone we loved went through this situation? Someone else was going through these thoughts or this story. And remember, please remember to be gentle with yourself. That is the best thing to do. If you can be gentle with yourself, that is always a good way to get out of those negative stories, get out of those negative thoughts, because that critic, remember, that critic can be harsh. If that harsh critic is taking over, it's hard to move forward and get past. So the being gentle with yourself, rewriting that story, all of that is reprogramming. And as we reprogram our thoughts, as we reprogram our actions, as we reprogram our environment, those are ways to get unstuck and to get out of where we've been. So coming to our senses, as we reprogram, we wake up, and many people call it an awakening. We have a different perspective that's coming about, and we can move forward. We can push forward. A quote by James Thunberg: "Let us not look back in anger or forward in fear, but around in awareness." So again, it's fine to acknowledge what's going on from your perception, feel the feelings, make sure you're in reality, journal the feelings if you need to, but be able to release those feelings and move on. And it's a process depending on what the situation is, how bad the situation may have been in your perception. You may need to take some time before you can actually move forward. So definitely allow yourself to heal, be gentle with yourself, allow yourself to love. Love yourself. Always is always the key, to love yourself. That's your superpower. Loving yourself, being selflessly selfish is always going to be a good thing. So to become more present in the now, right here, being more aware, you want to step out of the negative thinking. And a powerful method of doing so is to come to your senses, to wake up from that negative thought, from that negative story, from those negative thoughts. If it's multiple thoughts, simply redirect your attention out of the thoughts in your head and bring your focus back to your senses. Find yourself where you are right now. You know, what are you smelling? What are you feeling? What can you touch? What can bring you back into reality? So definitely you want to keep that in mind. Mindfulness, practicing mindfulness is always a good thing, something that you can do daily. And you know, you can call it meditation, your daily devotion, whatever you want to call it, but you want to be able to sit with yourself peacefully and quietly and get to a place where you can hear the God in you speaking and directing you, leading you and guiding you, taking you from one place, your lower self, and we talked about this last week, to your higher self. And there's a middle ground there as well, and I'll do some teaching on that too. But not staying in the lower nature, Because when we allow God to speak through us and to use us, we are operating from our higher nature. The higher nature is what should be prevailing. But again, those situations that we get into, if we get stuck in those situations, then it's hard to get back into that vibration. So being mindful, either doing it multiple times a day, but definitely you want to do it at a point where you can sit quietly for several minutes and reflect, hear, listen, write, be guided. It's a place of deep practice and deep peace. And deep practice takes practice to get there. But that deep peace, when you can find that deep peace, again, you can hear differently. You can operate differently. You can love yourself differently, and you can love those around you differently. So being mindful or practicing meditation, Harvard University has done a study where it shows that most people have mental wandering 47% of their day. So our minds are wandering. Most people, 47% of the day. That's a lot out of the day that your mind is constantly wandering. So definitely don't allow those thoughts to entangle you and get you out of the present, out of the now. And I can't think of the movie Inception. They have, I forget what it's called, but a trinket that they keep with them so that they'll know whether they're in the dream state or whether they're in reality. So sometimes you may have to have that one thing that you know that when you touch it, when you hold it, when you feel it, you are back in the present. So definitely get in your mind that you want to be mindful. So being deliberate in your mindful practice, making sure that you take time to do some type of daily devotion so that you can internally align yourself so that your external will line up to where you are as well. Mindfulness is the practice of waking up to the wellspring of wholeness and peace, being deliberately mindful. And even when we're eating, there was an exercise I did when I was taking a class, and she used a raisin. And just one raisin, she only had you put one raisin in your mouth. And usually when you eat raisins, you eat multiple raisins. But she said, get one raisin, put that one raisin in your mouth. And what she wanted us to do was experience what it tastes like, what it felt like, what we felt like. So just the entire experience. So everyone got very quiet and we did the exercise. And just the feeling of being conscious and aware of what was going on, not just with the raisin in your mouth, but around you, and how quiet it got in the room because everyone was participating. So being deliberate in everything you do, deliberate throughout the day, no matter what you're doing, no matter who you're with, being deliberate and mindful. By practicing daily mindfulness, devotion, or meditation, you are gradually cultivating more awareness and less of that mind clutter. So you are relieving yourself of anything that is not productive. Our last key point is there's some helpful questions that you can ask yourself to bring yourself back into awareness, to bring yourself back into useful thoughts, productive thoughts. Some of the thoughts would be, is this thought in any way useful or helpful? So definitely you want to ask yourself these questions, and then you want to give yourself an honest answer. Is it true? Again, is this reality? Or is this something that I'm coming up with mentally? Is this just an old story that my mind is playing out of habit? Or is this something that has really happened? Does this thought help to help me to take effective action? Or is it bringing me back down to my lower self? So keep those things in mind. Again, removing the mental clutter. Removing the mental clutter, you have to have a new focus, new possibilities. You have to have hope. You have to have joy. You have to see the good in any situation. And you want to be able to move forward in learning and knowing. Where you are right now, if you made a list of all of the positive things that were going on in your life versus all of the negative things that were going on in your life, it'll show what your mental state is. If you can get more negative things than positive things, then definitely that mindfulness, that reprogramming is what you need to be working on. Now, removing the mental clutter. These are some other questions that bring about constructive thoughts. What is the truth? What is my deepest truth about the situation, about the thought, about the story? Remember, we're rewriting our story, overcoming negativity. What do I really want to feel or create in this situation? And how can I move towards that particular feeling? Who would I be without this negative thought or negative story? Who would I be? Who do you want to be? Find out who you want to be and move towards that. What new story or new thought can I focus on now? That journaling again. What is it that I need to be doing? How can I see this in a different or new way? Changing our perception. What can I be grateful for in this moment? Again, bringing yourself to awareness and reality. What is it that I can find in this particular moment to be grateful for? And what am I learning? And as you learn, what can you share with someone else to help them learn something differently? So these were just a few things. Again, I'm Natasha L Brown, and we were dealing with the state of healing this week, overcoming negative thoughts and rewriting our story. And when we get into the mind of rewriting our story, we are transforming not just our being, not just our small world, but the world that we have to go out into and interact with others. You may be the very light that someone needs today. So definitely keep in mind who you are, where you are, be aware of what you want, attract what you want. Do not allow the negativity in life to outweigh the positivity in life. Do not allow that negativity in life to outweigh the positivity in life. So definitely you want to keep in mind of who you are, what you're supposed to be doing, and operating your purpose daily. Negative thoughts hinder us from operating in our purpose fully. So definitely keep those things in mind. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put those in the comment section. And if you have not subscribed, just make sure you subscribe. And follow us on social media. If I put it in the bio section so that you can see it and get what needs to be shared. So any of the social medias, you'll find me at Natasha L Brown, as well as my company, New Peace Wellness. And we do holistic coaching. So keep those things in mind. And as always, I want you to remember that I love you and that self-love is your superpower. Have a beautiful week, and if you have not done so, go ahead and catch any of the videos that we have done previously so that you can be in a state of holistic healing on a regular basis. Our bodies are self-healing machines, so always possess wellness. Enjoy your week. Thank you.